are doing it on purpose because you're still drawing from the deck like a fucking inbred.
Just right-click it. Don't pull
Just
it off.
right-click on the deck. And then click draw like not a fucking idiot.
Dear Mom and Dad, I'm doing fine!
Stop doing it! Fuck!
Take that one.
Pick up that card. Pick up that card.
Can we just play Battleship?
No.
With 4 people?
Yeah.
Let's play Slambo Shot.
I'll play.
Cole, I'm gonna come over to your house right now. We're gonna play some Slambo Shot.
No, we've been reinventing Slambo Shot in tabletop, so it's Slambo Shot 2.
Oh. Okay, we're playing Slambo Shot.
Slambo Shot is the game.
Okay, here's Slambo Shot 2.
It's tic-tac-toe as determined by chance.
What? Welcome to the second round of the Vital Festival Tournament. Came the loud and obnoxious voice of Professor Port over the loudspeaker. For all those now joining us, we are in the middle of the 2-on-2 fights between Demon and Kira of Vale and Jacob and Evie of Atlas. The fight is underway and it could go either way, so stay tuned. Thank God that's finally over. His voice is literally the most annoying thing in the world. Demon quickly cut his thoughts as a knife came his way, and he brought his gauntlets up to deflect it, his shield shimmering slightly at the interference. Couldn't I just rest for one day? He made it back to Beacon without revealing too much about his night in the forest, only that he had to deal with a few Grimm that came his way. Then he had gone back to his pod, slept for the rest of the day, only to wake up to the next morning to find that Marcus was in the middle of messing with his gauntlet. Damn it, Marcus. I told you to not piss around with my stuff. I'm sorry, Captain. I envisioned a strange mechanical system that I thought would increase your combat effectiveness if it was implemented as an extension to your armor. And you didn't bother to ask me. I asked Vanessa and she seemed to be okay with it. Didn't you hack her or something? I only removed her memories of Josh, and maybe placed a few backdoor accesses for me when I later need them. Well then, so what is it? It is an upgrade to your current grappling hook system that allows for the added usage of the device. It is utilized both lethal and non-lethal attachment methods. Marcus started, showing how he had attached what looked to be a wavy, curved blade to the end of one, as well as the ability to connect 2 objects to free your arm, while changing the magnetic capabilities to do so you pull towards the object, or the other way around. Thanks, I guess. Now could you please leave? Certainly, Captain. I just need 23.48 seconds to attach the gauntlet, then I may leave. Exactly 23.48 seconds later, Demon was glad that Marcus finally left the pod, leaving him to himself, alone inside the steel cage, something he relished. So he spent that entire day training, where he would have, if not received a hasty call from Kira telling him to get to the tournament ASAP. He put on his armor and sharpened his Wadachi before traveling to the floating arena, nearly laughing when everyone on the ship seemed to avoid him and tried to stay as far away as possible. He stepped off the ship and was immediately grabbed by Josh and Tempest, the duo dragging him as fast as possible until he arrived at the waiting area. "What's going on?" he asked, trying to get his bearings. "You're late," Kira nearly screamed as Demon sat in one of the waiting chairs on the side of the arena. "For what?" "The next round, you dumbass." "Oh, how come I wasn't messaged or something?" "We did." Demon pulled out a scroll and checked his message app. 123 unchecked messages. Well, sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it. Get ready. We're on next. Who's on now? The last round of the 4-on-4 with Team Cardinal. Well then, we shouldn't be kept waiting, should we? That's the thing. They're winning. What? They are versing literally the weakest team from Vacuo. They would probably be the only team Cardinal stood a chance of beating. Just as their conversation ended, a buzzer was heard, and one of the officials came over to Kira and Demon, confirming they were ready for the fight. They went off and probably told the announcers, which were Professor Port and Dr. Oobleck. Demon and Kira were ushered out into the arena, taking stances on one side while the other team walked out of the doors on the other side. They were wearing clothes that looked suspiciously reminiscent of his formal gear, and both of them having hoods covering most of their faces. They both came in carrying canes. Demon suspected them to be weapons, while he also guessed they had others hidden in the many folds of their elaborate garb. And also their bracers looked very suspicious. He did a quick scan with his pulse and saw just how many weapons they had, and he would be lying if he didn't say he was impressed. On top of the fact that the canes both had blades within them. They had blades in their bracers, copious amounts of knives in their jacket, pistols on their thighs, and a large kukri in reserve. The first round of the 2-on-2 fights will be fought between Demon and Kira of Vale and twins Jacob and Evie Fry of Atlas. The fight will begin shortly, as soon as the landscape has been decided, spoke Oobleck at lightning speed through the loudspeaker. Demon crossed his arms across his chest and bowed, their two opponents returning respective greetings as well. Well met, Demon of Vale. This shall be a challenging fight, commented the male, pulling the blade out of his cane and readying it in a typical rapier stance. His sister followed his lead, pulling the blade out of her cane, but holding both sides in the sheath and a blade in a reverse grip, holding them so that she was ready to strike the second the round started. Next to him, Kira unsheaths her sniper rifle, pulling back the slider to chamber round and aiming straight at Evie. Demon unsheathed his Odachi, flicking the blade and igniting the fire at the same time, setting it up vertically in his two hands. The spinners around the sides of the arena finally finished spinning, stopping on a rainforest behind the twins and a barren desert behind the pilots. The two twins looked behind them and smiled, glad for the selection, and they immediately began chatting between themselves. Demon took this as a bit of a starter and told Kira his plan. Okay, Kira, the weapons are meant for close-range fighting, so you're going to have to be our trump card. As soon as the bell sounds, I need you to find a hiding spot and hit them wherever they aren't looking. If one of them finds you, then just lead them to me and I'll distract them long enough for you to hide again. If it works, we should be able to outlast them. What happens if they just run? Pfft, that won't happen. Weapons are meant for close quarters, so they're going to have to get in our faces. Kira nodded in agreement, and they waited for the countdown to begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, begin. And then the twins immediately made a run for the trees. Kira turned to Demon and gave him the biggest "told you so" look, and then got down on one knee and began firing at them. Although her shots never found their mark, as their swirling pattern easily avoided the long-winded firing time. Demon unsheathed his Odachi and took the sheath off his back, shifting it into the chain gun, and began firing. The torrent of lead that was sent the twins' way was too much for them to accurately dodge, so more than a few bullets found their mark before the two disappeared into the trunks of the thickest rainforest. The torrent of lead that was sent the twins' way was too much for them to accurately dodge, so more than a few bullets found their mark before the twins disappeared into the trunks of the thick rainforest. Kira, set up in a tree and fire on anything that moves. Unless it's me. Demon activated his shield, a blue haze covering his armor, then sprinted into the tree, intent on finding the twins. As he stepped inside the forest, his chain gun sweeping through in an arc searching for targets. He sent a pulse through the forest, getting vague readings from the two, but for some reason he couldn't see exactly where they were, as the locator continued to switch places all throughout the trees, probably using jammers. As he was walking, he heard faint whistling. It didn't have any time to dodge as the throwing knife hit the back of his neck. As it hit, Demon felt a small electric buzz, as lightning dust must have been used to enhance the knife. His shields deflected the impact, but they were short-circuited the second it hit. Demon spun around and hastily put his chain gun in the way of the next three knives. The objects claned off the heavy-duty metal of the weapon. He got back into a firing stance and began firing into the trees where the knives had come from, branches and wood splintering under the explosive force of the chain gun. After 5 seconds of fighting, he had completely decimated the entire area in the general vicinity of where the knives had come from, yet he didn't see them. He put the chain gun on his back and unsheathed the Odachi, flicking the blade to its full length, and holding it at the ready in his right hand. He slowly and deliberately spun in a circle, scanning the tree line. A few knives came at him, seemingly out of nowhere, and he dived aside, narrowly avoiding the projectiles, but smiled as he saw his shield regenning, something which, unfortunately, was noticed by the two twins. Suddenly, a literal storm of knives headed his way, completely blocking out the lights of the arena. Demon was hesitant to seek help from Kalizar, something he vowed to do less of, and tried to block most of it normally. He spun his Odachi in a fan in front of him, cutting down at least a few of the knives. Most of them got through and cut down his shields, and most of his aura, leaving him with about half. He swore a bit and sprinted through the forest and hid behind a tree, trying to let his shields regen before he fought again, something which didn't happen. He heard a small rustle behind him and did a roll, narrowly missing a kukri as it embedded itself in the tree behind him. He saw where it landed and fired off a magnetic grapple, grabbing the hilt of the blade, then sent it straight back from where it came from. Demon hearing a satisfying grunt as it hit his target. He waited for a couple more seconds until, completely silently, Jacob dropped down from a tree holding a kukri in his hand. He nodded to Demon, beginning to circle him, until he eventually sprinted straight at him. Demon barely had any time to bring up his Odachi and to block the first of the swings, but eventually Jacob began landing hits due to the Odachi's unwieldiness in extremely close ranges. Demon watched his aura was hacked down slowly and surely until it was just above the red. He switched his tactics and sheathed his Odachi, using his miniature vortex shield to catch the kukri, then grabbed onto Jacob's arm and threw him into a tree. He continued with the assault by firing a knife grapple which wrapped around his arm, Demon pulling with all his might and smashing him into another tree. As he smashed the gentleman straight through a tree and heard the buzzer, signifying the end of his aura. He smiled and released the grapple, the line slowly coiling back into his gauntlet. Demon walked over to the fallen man, checked if he was okay, knowing he could have accidentally broken something, but deduced he was okay after saying nothing too vital was damaged. He was about to get up and walk off when he was grabbed up the neck by the fallen man and pulled right next to his mouth. "You must learn, Mr. Demon, we assassins are never alone." Demon took this as a bit of a final mockery and quickly pulled himself out of the grip of Jacob and dived to the side, narrowly missing a kukri slamming into the ground next to him. He looked back to see Evie standing with her cane blade in her left hand, and a pistol in her right, both trained on Demon. She was smiling, knowing that not even he could dodge a bullet at this range. Even one hit from anything would take him down. She stood there, not moving, while a smile crept its way onto her face. It's going to be fun getting to the finals. Demon knew she was the type of person who would drag this out as long as possible, so he took the opportunity to use something that he hadn't used since Calzar was more prevalent. He casually reached behind his back and reached into a small rucksack he had beneath the crook of his armor and pulled out 2 needles, jamming them to his arm as discreetly as possible. He felt the adrenaline course through his veins, and as an added touch, he activated his normal pilot stims as well. His vision clouded with yellow haze, and everything slowed down. Funny, I was just about to say the same thing to you. She smiled and ran straight at him, sliding the last few feet to try and cut out his feet. He even saw this coming and quickly dove over the woman, twisting his body to avoid a pistol shot that was aimed at his chest. When he landed, he rolled to avoid the shock and narrowly avoided a follow-up round from the pistol. With his left hand, he took out his wingman and shot the pistol out of the woman's hand, taking out his knife in his right and throwing it right at her chest. She blocked the knife and caught it mid-throw, twisting her body around to swing it back. He even dived out of the way and sprinted right at her, despite having the advantage in range. He shot the remaining 5 bullets, all but one of them crashing into Aura, then dived straight at her legs and knocked her over. She tried to retaliate and stabbed at his shoulder. He even stopped her by grabbing her wrist with his right arm and keeping her pinned with his left. He slowly but surely twisted the knife around so that it was pointed straight at her, then began slowly pushing it down. She saw this coming, and with the smallest flick of her wrist, 2 blades came out of her bracers, one aimed straight at the hand holding her down. With the heightened senses that the stims brought, Demon quickly released the woman and rushed the knife out of her grip, using it to slash away an attack made by her other hand. Before he could have any time to react, she kicked out his legs, and she was suddenly straddling him, blade aimed right at his chest. He dropped the knife and grabbed onto both her wrists, stopping the blade a mere millimeters from where they would hit his aura. You can't hold out forever, she mocked, Demon feeling his grip slightly loosen as she twisted her hands. He tried and failed to squirm out of it, but stopped when he saw a welcome sight. I don't need to. I just need to keep you still. What? Never mind. You just did it for me. He nodded. Then, out of nowhere, a bullet slammed straight into Evie and destroyed what was left for Aura, sending her flying a few feet from the impact. Demon smiled and stood up, straightening out his armor and weapons, then turned off into the darkness of the trees. About damn time you did something. No reply was heard as Kira dropped down from a nondescript tree and flipped him off, pulling back the bolt on her rifle, letting the casing fall to the ground. And the winners are Demon and Kira from Beacon Academy, Vale, shouted the ever-obnoxious voice of Professor Port overhead, quickly followed by a spiel from Oobleck on who was battling next, something the 2 fighters completely ignored. I thought you were all high and mighty after you managed to single-handedly take down an entire team, so you could have easily wiped them out. Why didn't you use your invisible sword slashy thing? I have no idea how that happened, so I can't just use it on a whim. But why did you seriously wait until the last damn possible moment to fire? As a little payback for sitting in the forest and not talking to Rosaline for a day. The demon paled a bit as the subject was mentioned, but continued the conversation as the two left the arena. He didn't know if Rosaline had told Kira what happened, but he wouldn't expect that from her given the circumstances. But he still hadn't come around to the decision on the subject. I have a justified reason for not speaking to her. Oh, and what would that be? She hasn't told you yet? No. All I noticed was that the day after the party you avoided her completely, and she hasn't been the same yet. Well, I don't even know how to begin. But simply I thought she was drunk, and she asked me to sleep with her. I obviously declined, but after she began crying, I couldn't decline. So she was drunk, and you were just being nice. By now, they had made their way to the waiting area, where they saw the rest of their group rushing forth to congratulate them. Damon turned on his cloaking and disappeared, Kira hearing a whisper under her ear before she felt the air seem to leave the room as he left. That's the thing. She wasn't drunk. Demon let the info hang as he left Kira to be bombarded by questions while he ran off to slip past them, seeing that Marcus and Tempest both saw him but didn't say anything, nodding in understanding. He swiftly made his way to an awaiting ship that was transporting people and deactivated his cloak, scaring everyone who was near him before he stepped aboard, sitting and waiting for the craft to take off. As he sighed in thanks that it was finally lifting off, just as the doors began to close, a red blur raced aboard into the craft. Demon didn't have enough time to react, as suddenly, a very excited RWBY crashed into him. He slammed back into the wall of the craft, and everyone around him looked at the scene in mute judgment, as RWBY straightened herself out after nearly hitting the wall herself. "Hi," she began, a massive smile coming across her face. Hi. What do you need?" "What? I can't just run into my brother and sit with him because I can?" "Yes, but the only time you ever do something like this is when you either want cookies or you want to look at my weapons again." "Well, Rosaline has been really sad all day and I wanted to make her better, but she said that only you can do that, so I'm going to come to get you to make her happy." Demon face-palmed at the girl's antics, being a bit glad that she didn't quite understand the situation. "RWBY, something happened between me and Rosaline that I need to take time to think about before seeing her again. Just let it be, and I'll eventually get it sorted out." She didn't seem to take that as a legitimate answer, and instead sat on the spare seat next to him and pouted, giving her best puppy dog eyes. Something that not even Demon could stand up to. "Ugh. I'm not going to talk to her. Could you at least tell me what happened?" she pleaded, putting her hands together as if in a prayer. You wouldn't understand. Hey, I'm a big girl now. I drink milk." "Yeah, sure. Look, I just want to make sure she knows everything about me before she continues with what she's doing." "Oh, are you two going out?" she asked, a bit of a smirk coming across her face. "It really took you that long to figure it out?" "Well, yes, we are. But I don't know whether I should continue or not, on the grounds that I wish to tell her everything. I don't feel comfortable just yet." "Really? You faced a dust stalker with nothing but a knife and you didn't even break a sweat. Yet the second you start liking someone, you need time to think?" "Yes! Women are scary." RWBY giggled a bit and hugged him, resting her head on the crook of his shoulder. "Just tell her how you feel, and she'll understand." "Thanks. Wait, I'm getting dating advice from someone 3 years younger than me. I seriously need to rethink my life." "You're getting dating advice from your sister. Be happy," she replied, yawning a bit and closing her eyes for the rest of the journey. They arrived back at Beacon, and Demon went to get up, but was stopped by very much asleep RWBY. He prodded her until she promptly shouted, "Cookies!" and woke up, startled. "Come on, little Rose. We have places to be and people to see, he toned, picking her up and helping her out of the aircraft before she activated her semblance and sped off to wherever she was going, until Demon got an alert on his scroll, which told him that the proximity alarm in his pod had been tripped. The pilot shook his head in shame before sprinting after her. He arrived at the pod, seeing Ruby desperately trying to open the cockpit of Vanessa, which was currently closed tightly. He laughed a bit and pulled her down, seeing the pouty face on his half-sister, but then opened the cockpit. He entered the cockpit and strapped into the chair, initiating the boot-up sequence, then activating Vanessa. Ruby looked at him with hope strewn over her face. 1 second. I don't want you to break anything in here, so I thought we should probably get somewhere more destructible. She instantly squealed, disappearing into a blur of roses, and Demon heard the clunking of her boots on top of the Titan. "Bonsai!" she screamed, pointing a finger straight at the door, glee flittering from her voice. Sir, where are we going?" came the weary voice of Vanessa, not entirely sure what was happening. "Don't worry, we're just gonna go somewhere where we can blow shit up. Bonsai!" Demon grabbed a spare plasma railgun and slammed straight through the Titan door of the pod. "Oops. Meh. I'll fix it later. For now, let's blow this popsicle stand." Sorry this one took a little longer than usual. The job searching is going absolutely nowhere, and the depression is starting to sink in. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll have another one out probably Monday. I don't know. Anyways, have a nice day.